significance because Henry already said it. So let's get right into it. As you know, 5 years ago, my life changed dramatically. We suddenly moved from Mexico to the US. Okay. And I often found myself in situations that I wasn't in control of. And especially I didn't have a mastery of the language, so I was often anxious. However, I found comfort in sports, music, and such activities. And these activities made sense to me because they had a structure I could follow. They had rules to them. Whereas my life did not make much sense to me because it didn't have a structure that I could just follow. But after a while, I realized that the reason why soccer was so satisfying to me was not because I scored goals, but because I had goals to pursue. And so, slowly, I began to set myself objectives in the rest of my life. And after a while, things began to get easier. My English flowed better, and I began to make more friends. These are the experiences that have helped me answer the question that I will answer for you today, which is, what is essential to the good life? My answer, in short, is a good life is a life of fulfillment, and fulfillment relies on a meaningful purpose, and morality. So, to answer this question today, I will first be talking about why fulfillment is good. Why does it lead us to the good life? Second, I will be talking about how we can unveil meaning around us and construct a purpose from that. Third, I will be talking about how we can know what is good and apply that to our purposes and our activities. And lastly, I will address a possible objection to my thesis regarding the selfishness of it. So, life comprises everything that forms part of our experiences, but we do not have control over everything. For example, the socks that I wore today are goofy, but those were my actions. And as the Greek Stoic philosopher Epictetus wrote, things in our control are, in a word, whatever are our own actions. And so, ourselves, our actions, and our choices are what we are in control of. Anything beyond that, we're not in control of. I'm not in control of your actions, and you're not in control of what socks I wear. And so, in order to lead a good life, we need to do what we can in order to fill our lives with goodness. We must strive to make good actions and strive to act excellently so that we can live a good life. Fulfillment is an internal state in which we are at peace with ourselves and our lives. And so in order to be fulfilled, we must know that we are pursuing something that is worthwhile. We must know that we're doing something valuable with our lives, and that will satisfy us. Fulfillment is what will lead us to the good life, because when we are fulfilled, we know that we are doing our best to live, and we are satisfied by that. We are trying to live to the best of our abilities. And that is the only way in which we will be satisfied. We are not only pursuing something that is worthy, but we know that we are doing it for the right reasons. And in that way, we will be completely satisfied. In other words, fulfilled. Life, however, is also inherently unpredictable. It lacks the structure that I find in sports and in music and such activities. And as such, the French author Albert Camus writes, "Man feels within him his longing for happiness and for reason. The absurd is born of this confrontation between the human need and the unreasonable silence of the world." So, as Camus says, we want our lives to make sense and to have some sort of structure, but the world does not have any answers for us. And so we are left stranded in this jungle of unpredictability, and we are in an intimidating state, and we don't know where to go. A meaningful purpose provides a path to follow in this jungle of unpredictability, away from unpredictability and into fulfillment. And so, in order to be fulfilled, we need a meaningful purpose. A meaningful purpose is what will lead us toward what we deem worthy, and in such a way when we strive to pursue what we deem valuable and do it in a good way, we will be fulfilled. And so a meaningful purpose is necessary in order to be fulfilled. But the way in which people most often deal with this feeling of unpredictability around them and in our world is not by looking for some sort of meaningful purpose, but simply by looking for external comfort. What I mean by that is that people most often look to power, pleasure, or some sort of, or surrounding themselves with a multitude of people they call friends, and in such a way they have external comfort. They are satisfied externally, but internally they remain deeply empty. And this is why we should not pursue external comfort, but instead we should pursue internal fulfillment. And in order to do that, we must seek for a meaningful purpose. Meaningful purpose will guide our goals toward what we deem of importance, and so our actions and our choices will flow in that direction, and they will be justified by this goal. If this goal is a worthy goal and we know that it is important to us, then we will be fulfilled. We will be satisfied with what we do and how we do it because we're striving to do it in the best way possible. But what is purpose? Purpose is mainly the reason or the end for which something exists. And so the purpose of a knife is to cut. The purpose in our lives is what justifies them. But purpose in life does not have to be an ultimate goal. It does not have to encompass our whole entire lives. It can be a short-term goal or a long-term goal. And it can be a lot of short-term goals which lead to a bigger goal. And in such a way, we will be fulfilled. But regardless of the length of the purpose or how many purposes we have, they need to motivate us internally. When they motivate us internally, we will know that the goal that we are pursuing is worthy. And so if we are motivated to pursue that goal, then we will be satisfied by our actions and our choices. But purpose leads to fulfillment, and as I've said, fulfillment is complete internal satisfaction. If we break up the word fulfill, it comes from the Old English fulfillian, which means to fill up completely. And so when we are fulfilled, we need nothing more because we are complete. And so when we have a purpose, when we construct our purposes, they must complete us internally. In order for them to do that, they must attract our actions and our effort toward them so that most of our actions and effort, or all of it, is focused toward this goal. And in such a way, we will be busy, our lives will be busy pursuing this goal. And as we know that it is an important goal, we will be fulfilled. But we will not be fulfilled unless our goal is meaningful. And so we not only need purpose in order to be fulfilled, but we also need meaning. But what is meaning? Meaning is mainly the importance or the significance of something. What a word means is mainly what that word conveys or signifies. And similarly, when somebody gives us a gift that we appreciate and we appreciate that gesture, we will say, this gift means a lot to us. But the value of that gift does not reside within the monetary or the physical part of the gift, but resides in the particular story that is behind that gift. And so meaning is something very personal that we can find in things around us. But if I take the example of the gift, a gift is something that is supposed to be gratuitous. It's something that we are supposed to give to someone with an already predetermined meaning. And so a gift in and of itself is supposed to be something meaningful. It has intrinsic value. There is intrinsic value like this all around us, and we must realize that value in order for us to find that value. And so, even though there is intrinsic value everywhere around us, that does not mean that we will find it valuable. And so we must realize the value that is around us in order to be motivated and find a purpose. We all find value in certain things more than others. We all value, let's say I value soccer, but you won't find that meaningful too. And so we must realize what is of importance in our lives in order to find what is meaningful. If we reflect upon our interactions with others, upon our experiences, we will find what is meaningful to us. And oftentimes, things that we enjoy will be meaningful, things that we remember will be meaningful, or things that we do a lot will be meaningful. Meaning can be found everywhere. And Viktor Frankl was an Australian neurologist who was also a Holocaust survivor. And he shows us that even in the bleakest conditions, we can find meaning and purpose. Viktor Frankl wrote in his book, Man's Search for Meaning, that we are able to find meaning and purpose everywhere. Meaning is all around us. Viktor Frankl explains how he was able to find meaning in suffering by keeping his empathy and his morality in the unforgiving conditions of the camp, of the concentration camps. And in this way, we are able to find meaning regardless of our circumstances. And that is why we should pursue internal fulfillment. And that is why we should look for meaning around us and for something that motivates us internally. Meaning is not only around us, but it is also within us. And that is what Viktor Frankl proves to us. So we can find meaning everywhere. And we must examine our lives and our experiences in order to find it. And in such a way, we can construct a purpose around that meaning and be fulfilled. But fulfillment is not only pursuing something that is worthy, but it is also doing it in the right way and executing that purpose in the right way. So we must know that our purposes are executed in the right way. We must have morality. Morality is a set of standards that a man must follow in order to act the right way. So, in order to gain a good understanding of what is good, we must look to the experiences and the reality that surrounds us. Truth is something that strives to explain reality. And so if we look to the reality around us, we will find truth. And we can find what is truly good. Therefore, in order to find goodness, we must look to the reality that surrounds us, and realize what is good. But we will not only find goodness from one single experience. So as we go through our lives and have more experiences, we must refine our understanding of what is good. For example, in The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn by Mark Twain, Huck is someone who has been imposed this unprecise understanding of goodness. But as he has experiences of his own and progresses through his life, he's able to come to a better understanding of goodness. And in such a way, we must strive to examine our lives and reflect upon our experiences in order to come to a better understanding of what is good. Luckily, we are awarded with a moral sense with which we can determine what is good and what actions and experiences are good and distinguish them from what is bad. This moral sense is most often discussed by philosopher Francis Hutcheson, but I am interested in the discussion from Jonathan Haidt, who is a contemporary American professor and psychologist who is interested in the moral emotions. Jonathan Haidt says, when any act of charity or of gratitude, for instance, is presented either to our sight or our imagination, we are deeply impressed with its beauty and feel a strong desire of doing charitable and grateful acts also. On the contrary, when we see or read of any atrocious deed, we are disgusted with its deformity and conceive an abhorrence of vice. Thus, when we are presented with a good act, we want to act in the same way. We are, as Jonathan Haidt says, elevated by it. And on the other hand, when we are presented with something that is bad, we are disgusted or repulsed by it, and we don't want to do something similar. But even though we are given this moral sense, that does not mean that we will be able to distinguish good from bad right from the womb. In a similar way, when a baby is born, he has the ability to speak and to hear, but he's not able to do so unless he looks around himself and realizes, learns from his experiences and realizes what is the proper way to use his senses. In the same way, we must practice with our moral sense and look around us so that we can more precisely determine what is good from what is bad. And so we do not only have this moral sense within us, but we can also refine it. Musical ear can only come through constant and continual practice. And in the same way, we must strive to refine our moral sense by practicing, by utilizing it a lot. And in this way, we will come to a better understanding of what is good. We will be able to determine what is good from bad more readily. When we have an understanding of goodness, we are able to apply that understanding to our purposes and our lives. And so, once we come to an understanding of goodness, that understanding must apply to each of our purposes and to each of our actions. And in such a way, we can not only pursue something that is worthy, but we can also pursue it for the right reasons and in the right way. And in such a way, we can be fulfilled. So this is the way to live the good life. But from the beginning of my presentation, I have been talking about myself, about my own fulfillment. And so what is so important about my own fulfillment as opposed to that of others? Something that I talk about extensively in my thesis is that we should not pursue goals for what we can get from them. We should not pursue something in order to be benefited by it. Instead, we must do it merely for the sake of itself. The Spanish philosopher Ortega says, to live is to be directed towards something, to progress towards a goal. The goal is not my movement, not my life. It is something to which I put my life, and which consequently is outside it, beyond it. If I decide to walk alone inside my own existence, egotistically, I make no progress. And so, we must not only pursue a goal that is meaningful, but we should pursue a goal that is greater than ourselves. In such a way, we will not only be motivated to pursue it because we know that it is more important than ourselves, but we will also focus more attention and more effort towards that goal. And when we do this, we will be more satisfied because we are more complete by doing something that we know is really important. And so we must not only pursue something meaningful, but something that transcends us, something that is beyond us. In this way, we will be fulfilled. And in this way, we are not focusing on ourselves, but we are devoting our lives to something else. So, this is the way to live the good life. We must first find something that is meaningful to us, and then apply it. We must first find something that is meaningful to us, and then construct a purpose around that. We must find what is good, and then apply it to our purposes and our actions. And in this way, we will be completely satisfied and fulfilled. Now, I've given you the tools for which to live a good life, with which to live a good life. And now it is up to you to use these tools and apply them to your life so that you may live a good life. Thank you. Mr. Anderson?
Thank you, Daniel. So you think, you talk a lot about sort of internal fulfillment. Are most people fulfilled in their lives in the sense of that completeness? Or do you think that they're periodically sated? They get a little bit, and then they try to find more, and they try to find more, but they're never totally whole.
Right. I think that it's the second one. I think that people are most often periodically sated. But I know that there's a lot of people like my parents who are periodically sated, but they also have a purpose to which they are pursuing, and which their little periodic satiations also strive to fulfill. And so I think that even if we don't recognize it,